Hello and welcome to the Election Corner on One Man Think Tank. Today I will be giving you my 2020 February Senate prediction. Now, as you can see, I've left in all of the safe states from my last prediction, and we'll be going in to fill all these toss-ups in a moment. As you know, if you've watched this before, I will not leave a state as a pure toss-up. I believe that any state has a slight tilt towards one party. But before we can get to them, we need to discuss some states that, due to recent events over the past month, have become a tad bit more contentious. First, we have Kentucky and South Carolina. Both of these states' senators, Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham, were at the center of the, I don't know what to call it, impeachment debacle. And while Donald Trump ended up being acquitted for his impeachment, I think is the correct way to say that, both of them were at the core of it. You saw headline after headline after headline. And they voted to acquit him. And in an election cycle which looks incredibly contentious, where impeachment will be brought up, and where it looks very much like he could be impeached again, they're going to have to answer it. And rage motivates more people than contentment. And if you have one group of people that's pissed off because Trump was acquitted in the Senate, and another group that feels good because he was, the group that's pissed off is going to show up. That was the big lesson from the whole Kennedy affair, back in, no pun intended, back in the late 90s. A lot of people were angry he was impeached, so they showed up. And the people who were happy he was impeached didn't. The exact same thing's going to happen. You need to figure out if you're siding with the majority of the populace or not. And if you want my opinion, I think they sided against enough of their own state's population. There's a risk for them. Another state I'd like to move into likely is Alaska. I know this is going to be a kind of weird thing to bring up when I was just talking impeachment, because this has nothing to do with it. The incumbent Senator Sullivan, he is being challenged by, I believe he is not a state representative, Al Gross. Now, Mr. Gross, or Dr. Gross, is mounting a pretty decent campaign, as well as the fact that their governor looks like he's going to be impeached, or removed, sorry, not impeached, just removed by a recall vote, or at least have that on the ballot, means that being of the same party as him could hurt Senator Sullivan. Not to mention, Dr. Gross is running as an independent, which could very well take him down. So Alaska is no longer safe for the Republican Party. Unlikely it's going to flip, but never hurts to watch out. But with that being said, we've covered all of the states that are going to change. Actually, one small note, Montana. It was reported that Governor Bullock, soon to be former Governor Bullock, just went to meet with Barack Obama to talk about the Senate, running in the Senate. So there is a chance that he could start running. Now, if he runs, this state goes to leans. So if you're watching this 5 days after I upload it and, oops, he's running, this is now a lean state. But since he's not, it's safe. The reason being, Governor Bullock is incredibly popular in Montana and is a known quantity, a well-known quantity. And Montana has a long-standing history of electing Democrats at the statewide level, especially for the Senate. So I feel there's a good chance Bullock would make this race contested and could even, causing me to put in tilt blue on election day. Highly unlikely, but that is the range of scale we're talking with Bullock. But anyway, let's knock off the rest of the likely states while we're out here. Starting with the Republicans, Iowa, I've moved up from leans to likely again. Why? Rather simple. Even though we've had this entire impeachment debacle, what I've learned from it, what I've learned from the Iowa Caucuses, what I've learned from the reporting is Joni Ernst isn't doing poorly in Iowa. Impeachment isn't a big deal, etc., etc. Her name was never really brought up except mentioning she'd consider impeaching Joe Biden, and as we just learned from the Iowa Caucuses, not even Democrats in Iowa give two you-knows about Joe Biden, apparently. So I'm putting her back up to likely. She could flip, but frankly, right now I see her flipping most likely about as the same time as Mitch McConnell or Lindsey Graham flips. Definitely could happen, but no guarantees. The other likely ones for the Republicans are all in the South. Mississippi and Alabama are both likely states. Now, Mississippi is likely because Democrats have been mounting strong campaigns in Mississippi. So far, they have yet to win, and the votes are against them, especially in an election year. But, a presidential election year, I should clarify. Doesn't really matter if the votes are with you in an off-election year. But Mississippi has shown time and time again. You know how I'll reference states by mentioning other states, so North Carolina is the new Virginia, Arizona is the new Colorado? Well, Mississippi is the new Georgia. A state that definitely has a lot of potential to go blue, but doesn't look like it's likely going to happen. But it is likely enough, you have to say, it's likely. And for the record, Louisiana is the new Mississippi. Alabama, on the other hand, is most likely going to be a flip, where the Democrats lose their current seat, held by... I've forgotten his name, you'll have to forgive me. Doug Jones, Senator Jones, and he will most likely lose his seat. Now, if there is a direct flip from an incumbent senator, I never want to put that as safe. So it's going to be likely. But it is the darkest shade of red you can get on likely right now. I'll be interested to see once the Democrats pick their nominee if they have some kind of traction in the South which could save Doug Jones. But for right now, unlikely in my book. But those are the only new likely states for the Republicans. On the Democratic side, they only have one. It's Colorado. Colorado for the exact same reason of Alabama. It looks like a flip. You have Senator Gardner, who looks like he's going to lose to current Governor Hickenlooper. It's probably going to be a flip. I'm almost going to guarantee it, to the point I'd consider this safe with how poorly he's doing in the polls. Doug Jones being the harshest shade of red you can get for a likely, you need to get even bluer on Cory Gardner. But that's the only one. So let's go into the lean states with Michigan, the state that a lot of Democrats should be paying more attention to, in my opinion. This is the only state where Democrats are seeing, I'd say, a sincere challenge to their power, besides Alabama, where the special election, which put Doug Jones in power, was to use a little bit of a pun, a very special election. But the current incumbent, Peters, is being run against by a man named, I keep forgetting what the exact phrase is. I believe it's John James. It's I feel like it's two apostles that start with J, so let's go with John James. Now, he is mounting a strong campaign and is a rather charismatic dude as far as I can tell. He seems to be pushing ahead. He's mounting a strong challenge. And what seems to be the big question here, and why I've moved it to leans, is right now Peters seems to be lacking name recognition in a state he's been incumbent for 2 terms. That can hurt you. Now, maybe on Election Day, Michigan will go out, see Democrat, and just fill in the bubble. But name recognition is important, and it could swing an election. So, for right now, I'm putting it as leans. And by Election Day, it's probably not going to be leans anymore. It's either going to be tilt or likely. One of the two. But that's not the only leans for the Democratic Party. They also have North Carolina. Now, as far as I can tell, I'm the only one who's calling North Carolina as a leans right now out of any of the pollsters. My logic remains the same. North Carolina has shown a regular and continuous ability to elect Democrats on the statewide level in both midterm years and in general election years. Meaning, in a year with a notably unfavorable president, and I know he's having a little bit of an uptick right now, But every uptick he's had has always gone back down. If it stays up, then it's going to change for March. I want to see a trend carry for a month before I consider it in my polling, not 3 days. Now, North Carolina, shown time and time again, massive potency to vote for Democrats at the statewide level. In this contentious year, with impeachment, with a historically unfavorable president, with an ever-bluing population that's higher educated and more diverse moving into the Triangle region, they're going to flip. I think it's going to flip, and that will be the Democrats taking a seat from the Republicans. That's my call. If you disagree, leave a comment. I'd love to hear your reasoning. But those are the only two for the Democratic Party. Now, on the Republican side, there are quite a few more. First, we have Kansas. It is becoming clearer and clearer that the candidate the Republicans are going to put forward in Kansas is going to be Chris Kobach, the only man who could lose a gubernatorial election while running as a Republican in Kansas. He is notably unfavorable in the state. He's notably unfavorable in the country, if you look at his favorability. He is running against what seems to be a solid candidate. Not amazing, but solid. In a general election year, with a notably unpopular president who drives out opposition turnout as well as the impeachment stuff, I'm willing to put this as leans. Once Kobach's in and we get some solid polling, because you need to keep in mind, we don't really have any polling for the Senate yet, this could very well flip to a tilt blue. That is how bad and toxic Kobach is to the Republican brand. Okay, next on to Texas. Texas is still leans blue. I know a lot of people have gone, oh, well, it's likely now because Beto's not running, but Beto is still there. He's still organizing, and he's pushing to take the State House. And I've got a big spoiler for you. If you take the State House and people vote on the down ticket, or straight ticket, sorry, they vote straight ticket, which people are becoming more and more likely to do, there is a solid chance you take the Senate. Beto O'Rourke got within 3 points of Ted Cruz. The most likely candidate who's going to be on the Democratic side is a candidate called MJ Hagar. They are most likely going to be able to take Cornyn on one-on-one. To the point that if this race just gets statewide recognition in Texas, there is a solid chance it could flip. Let us also not forget that there have been 2 years between 2018 and 2020, meaning that there have been, I can't remember the exact number, but a large quantity of new voters who fall specifically into the Democrats category. And speaking of new voters possibly being able to swing statewide elections since 2018, we're looking at Georgia. Right now, what I've seen for the most part is the state being likely and the special election being leans. I think the normal election is leans, and the special election, I'll just let it go now, tilt. This state is a lot more volatile than people think. And to get that close in the gubernatorial election last year, plus a long-standing effort to run and recruit people to vote in Georgia, plus the fact that everything was stacked against the Democrat in the governor's race, Stacey Abrams, and she still pulled out a near victory to the point it was so close we weren't sure if there would be a recount, means these elections are going to be contentious on Election Day. I think most of the time, both of these will stay Republican. But there is a solid chance on Election Day that if Democrats have solid turnout, we see Georgia flip, we see Texas flip, we see Kansas flip. That's all I'm saying. Now, and as you can see from what I've said for the leans, Republicans, if they maintain the presidency, will keep the Senate. However, there are 2 seats in play, Arizona and Maine. In Arizona, this shouldn't shock anyone, I'm saying it's tilt. Arizona has been going more and more blue each year, and I think we're going to start seeing a recurring theme of it turning blue. The incumbent, Martha McSally, is not super popular. She was put in place as kind of a concession for losing the last election. She lost her last election. And Mark Kelly, the guy running, is very popular, very interesting. Interesting as in charismatic on the media. So, if you want my opinion, Democrats have the slight edge in what seems to be a toss-up state. But last we have Maine. Maine is a state that's been in question this entire time because the incumbent has been considered the moderate on the Republican side. Susan Collins has completely thrown that out the window over the past 4 years. She has voted for a anti-Roe v. Wade judge. I won't say pro-life because just anti-Roe v. Wade. So, which is a big thing in Maine. That's part of the reason she's in. She was viewed as being moderate on that issue, pro-choice. She voted to acquit Trump. She voted to not have witnesses in the trial. Those are not good looks for her, being the only federal Republican from New England right now. And I think it is very likely this state, as it stands right now, will go tilt blue, meaning the Senate will be up to the presidency. I think this is how things line up right now. We've got 9 months until the election. In that time, it could go either way. On election day, we could be going, it's definitely Republicans, or, it's definitely Democrats, or, it is so tight we don't know which. But as it stands right now, this is the perfect place for one party to take this and run. If Democrats pour money into the states, and speaking of which, they are doing incredibly well in the House. I believe they're lowest 28 House representatives who are in their weakest positions. Their lowest 28 have earned more money than all of the Republicans in the House combined. All Democrats have to do is take some of that money and put it into these contentious Senate races. Georgia, Texas, Kansas, even Iowa, Kentucky, South Carolina, Alabama, Maine, Alaska, Arizona. And they could flip this across the board. I'm actually considering doing a completely new blue wave scenario because more states have started to open up for the Democrats. So here is what we are left with. Not what our final map is going to look like by any means, but a massive indication that this Senate race is far from decided. So, if you liked the video, please leave a like down below. If you have any opinion you'd like to share, including, you think a state should be more red or more blue, something should flip, something shouldn't flip, why isn't Virginia being contested, etc., leave a comment down below. If you enjoyed the video, click subscribe, and remember to click that notification bell. It alerts you when new videos come out. I don't just do this, I also am posting policy videos that I have personally proposed. So, I have nothing else to say except, as always, have a wonderful day.